Evening intuitives, you know, back for another video later in the day than I normally do, and thank you to everybody who took the time to watch some of my videos and subscribe. Notice once again my subscribers, it's going up 2, down 1, up 1, down 1, so if you are subscribed, check to make sure that you still are. I've heard YouTube sometimes unsubscribes people. I don't know why they would bother with a nobody like me, but it's kind of annoying as I inch ever closer to that threshold of 1,000 subscribers. So today I wanted to do a video that I probably should have done a long time ago, but I want to talk about the compatibility in relationships between INFJs and ENFJs, two sides of the same intuitive coins, because after all, INFJs and ENFJs, we have the same four cognitive functions, just in a different order, and oftentimes we are, the best at understanding each other aside from others of our own type. And I've certainly been my experience in my life, and I'm going to get into why ENFJs are my, favorite people, it seems, in terms to who I'm drawn to in seeking potential romantic relationships. And now, knowing what I know now and looking back on it, it does seem like I've primarily been drawn to ENFJ women, since I was 11. So I'm going to get into the sort of symbiosis INFJs and ENFJs have, be it romantic or otherwise. So to start, INFJs and ENFJs were both typically empaths. ENFJs, their extroverted feeling is how their mind works most of the time, similar to how we are with our introverted intuition. It's flipped. Extroverted feelings are secondary, introverted intuition is their secondary. So we are both intuitive types, albeit INFJs are, it's a stronger sense with us. Nobody can out intuition us. We are the poster child of the intuitive. So in a lot of ways, obviously there's similarities and differences, but in a lot of ways, if we're not similar, we can relate to one another. In terms of romantic relationships, both INFJs and ENFJs, for the most part, from what I've seen anecdotally, have both been looking for their soulmate since they were 12. INFJs and ENFJs, the majority of us tend to be demisexual, and we seek that deep, emotional, almost spiritual connection. We are not interested in simply like a friend with benefits or a one night stand or a short fling kind of relationship, although sadly ENFJs a lot of times get sucked into that at least once in their life, because one of their Achilles heels is they want to believe the best in people, and the other one being is in their younger years. Most of them struggle to say no. And that in turn goes into our symbiosis with us, with INFJs, because ENFJs, from what I found, and especially when I was younger and more introverted, is they will reach out to us in that, like, they'll approach an INFJ, they can kind of see who we are. They're intuitive enough, they can see who we are, even when we're like being quiet and being hermit. Like, they'll approach us on their own and be authentic and engage us in a topic they know that, we'd love to have a deep conversation about. And due to their highly empathic nature, INFJs, despite our trust issues, usually can open up to ENFJs pretty easily, especially if we're talking like a one-on-one conversation type thing. And ENFJs, in my opinion, bring out the best in INFJs. They allow us to truly be ambiverted. Like, we can be more extroverted when we're with an ENFJ out in a group of people, as opposed to us on our own, because they're very good at, maybe if we word something wrong, they're very good at fixing it. It's tough to explain, but ENFJs sometimes know what we're trying to say, even if, due to our disconnect between our brain and actually saying the words. So, we get along great in that respect. ENFJs understand our need for alone time. They have it to a much lesser degree, but INFJs being the most introverted, or I'm sorry, the most extroverted of the introverts, and ENFJs being the most introverted of the extroverts. Although they need to be around people to recharge sometimes, and we need the opposite. But both of us, when we are around people, although we crave it to different levels, we crave that like actual deep connection with people, like conversations that are meaningful, not just loud clubs with superficial conversations and everything being about the eros, aspect of love and who looks better and stuff censors do, in essence. So both types, are seeking that soulmate relationship, and both types, particularly when we get older and unfortunately have, one or two bad relationships, will realize that we are not going to settle for less. Both INFJs and ENFJs, have in common that if we can't find that deep connection, that true unconditional love that we're looking for, then we'd rather just be alone. It's all or nothing, in that we won't settle to be with somebody that doesn't meet, what we're looking for, just to not be alone. Neither one of us are like that. Although ENFJs, a lot of them, unfortunately, they usually have a bad experience with a casual relationship. This is just a pattern I've noticed with female ENFJs is typically from what I've seen is, and this is, you might be thinking, well, why haven't you been able to have a, long-term relationship with one? Well, because I fucking never meet one that's single. ENFJs, especially, when I was in university, they were like, you know, 21 years old and already been with the same guy for 2 years and typically dated that guy all through university and either ended up marrying that guy a few years after university, or the relationship fell apart sometime like 6 months to a year after graduation, when they were removed from the university bubble and into the quote real world. And that's usually when the pattern I've noticed, where the female ENFJ will end up with an older narcissistic type guy, like 10 to 15 years older, who she most likely thinks he's ready for something serious given his age. But these narcissists typically have Peter Pan syndrome, and they see the, somewhat naive but very sweet, authentic, probably a little dorky, because ENFJs make dorky look cute. I don't know how you do it, but you do it. So that guy will see it as a conquest and will get off on the fact that it's like, oh, this, 20-something struggles to say no, and ENFJs are very giving, and they just totally exploit that. It is like some of the scummiest fucking dude bros I've ever met were like the late 30s, upper middle class dude bro type who was dating, but really just using the, mid 20s ENFJ. Don't worry, I dealt with one or two of them, but obviously I cannot fight them all. So that is a pattern that seems to emerge that is not unlike, what the INFJs go through. So we INFJs and ENFJs, we both struggle. Typically, a lot of us struggle with our love lives, particularly in our 20s, because we're very career focused. We understand in a relationship between an INFJ and an ENFJ, we both understand that for most of us, a lot of our sense of purpose and identity are tied up in our careers, and there's that mutual symbiosis there again too. And authenticity is a big thing between the two of us. We both very much like people that are authentic. We both highly value integrity. We're both terrible liars, and we both typically have trust issues. So there's a lot of mutual struggles between INFJs and ENFJs that each other can understand, and that's why, we work very well together, especially as I've already mentioned, that need for emotional connections and a, small group of true friends. And we're capable of unconditional love, both of us. We're probably the only two types, like an INFJ and an ENFJ, are probably one of the few combinations that could truly make a long distance relationship work, because we know how hard it is to find what we're looking for. And also, unconditional love, as we know, is rare. It is an elusive blue rose in Atlantis. But we know what it is when we find it, and of course, we INFJs and ENFJs both would never prioritize like financial gain over the chance to actually have that unconditional love we're looking for. So one of the two would be willing to relocate. That's very much within both of our nature. I mean, we're both very caring, empathetic, and nurturing people. A big thing that helps in an INFJ and ENFJ relationship is ENFJs are not impressed by like material things like, ooh, shiny platinum, it costs a lot of money. Keeping up with the Joneses, like, look what my boyfriend got me. He cheats on me and, comes home drunk and, tries to get me to do things in the bedroom that I don't want to do. But look, he's got money and he buys me shiny things and he drives a Porsche. That's why I let him stick it in my ass even though I cry, and he gets off on that. Yeah, sorry. Memories of someone I beat up. But anyway, ENFJs very much appreciate like their partner doing little things all the time without being asked, like, the little things that an INFJ notices, that people are trying to say without asking. Gifts that have meaning, things that like the ENFJ would mention say months earlier, and the INFJ would remember it and seek out these items that have personal significance. For example, like a first edition of a book that the ENFJ, that it was a big part of, say, her childhood, things of that nature. Doing little things without being asked. Like the ENFJ has a rough day at work. When she gets home, INFJ has like a bath with essential oils drawn, or ENFJ comes home from work, takes her heels off and says her feet hurt. Snuggles up with INFJ. INFJ gives her foot massage. Stuff like that really impresses an ENFJ. Like, oh, he pays attention and he does these things because he loves me, not because he's trying to get me to do something that I don't want to do. And the INFJ, that's how we show affection, is, doing like little niceties all the time, things that we pick up on intuitively. Because INFJs don't play keeping up with the Joneses. Like, something isn't good just because it costs a lot of money, and we don't give a shit what, the status quo group thinks. This isn't, we seek authenticity, integrity, and true unconditional love. We're not like the group of baby boomers from the movie The Big Chill, where it's all about debauchery and keeping up with the Joneses and trying to forever live in your youth. That's not the kind of people we are. Also, INFJs and ENFJs we're very good together as co-parents. Like I said, we have that symbiosis between our two personalities, so we're also very good as co-parents. Particularly is that a lot of ENFJ women, when they become empowered in their mid-20s, when they learn how to say no, embrace feminism, which INFJs, being somewhat effeminate, and it's just our INFJ nature to support equality for all. Like an INFJ male would have no problem being the one putting his career on the back burner for his, hypothetical ENFJ spouse to continue pursuing her career. Because INFJs, or INFJ men, well, INFJs in general, but we're talking about specifically INFJ men. INFJ men are very nurturing and empathetic, and typically very good with babies and young children. I know I am, and those are traits that are traditionally ascribed as feminine. It's no secret INFJs have some feminine traits, and I've learned to embrace them. I am a witch who worships a female goddess, after all. So those things all go hand in hand, and it's why a lot of times INFJ and ENFJ relationships work out very well. Now, of course, sometimes they don't, and a lot of times that's usually because one or both of them are unhealthy. They're in an unhealthy state, an INFJ in a constant NITI loop, an ENFJ who struggles to stand up for herself, kind of thing. So when I say these relationships usually work out, I'm saying when both individuals are healthy and obviously are at the same stage of life and wanting the same thing, a lot of times they do work out. I've a few acquaintances I've seen examples of. It's just difficult for us to find each other. There's not that many ENFJ females, and there's really not that many INFJ males. And also, we can be a bit reclusive. And ENFJs can give up on love too and immerse themselves in their hobbies and their career because they simply at some point say, you know what, I'm not ever going to be used as somebody's fling or plaything ever again. Like they would rather be alone than to go through that emotion of being used. Because ENFJs love falling in love more than any type, and INFJs aren't far behind. And we also love, like, oh my God, somebody actually gets us, because most people don't. Most people are like, what's wrong with you? Be like everybody else. Go out to the pub and have a one night stand and, dude, bro, bounce the ball, take the blonde, like, just typical, like, you know what I'm trying to say, especially if you're an ENFJ, because pretty good at knowing what I'm trying to say and when I have trouble getting out. And a lot of times we can read each other. INFJs and ENFJs, for a lot that I've known, if you're my ENFJ friends, we almost have like a nonverbal communication. It was an ENFJ, after all, who straight up called me out at work and said, you must have dealt with a lot of narcissists growing up because you feel the need to over-explain every action you take as if you have to justify it. And of course I, replied with, I'm like, you can say no to people. Just because somebody's your boss doesn't mean that she can take away the rights you have as an employee or the rights you have based in employment law. Just because she is your superior does not mean you cannot say no. So that was kind of a, last summer I had a big brother, baby sister friendship with an ENFJ I worked with. And we learned a lot from each other, and she's more empowered now, which is awesome. So, a lot of times, be it romantically or otherwise, INFJs and ENFJs work very well together. Like, as I said, I would describe it as symbiosis. We should seek each other out. We can balance each other. We can help each other's strengths and flaws. Personally, be it romantic or otherwise, maybe even in a work situation or friendship. To me, the team of an INFJ and an ENFJ would be unstoppable. As I said, an ENFJ president with a INFJ Speaker of the House would be a great way to get progressive change in the United States, for example. So, thank you for listening. Please trust your intuition of people's true intentions, and sometimes, if somebody seems like they're what you're looking for, but they're too shy to open up, maybe you need to talk to them alone. And don't sell out your integrity to somebody who deep down is going to use you, but just because they're, wealthy and some big shot in wherever you're living at the time, in whatever old boys clique they may be in, beware the old boys, beware. And also, if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe, and if you think you're subscribed, make sure you are. Thank you. And yes, I am getting a new microphone in a few days.